The zipper of the tent rasped open like a confession in the dead of night, and Finn's silhouette filled the flap, rain-slicked and trembling. "Wyatt," he whispered, his voice cracking like thunder rolling in from the peaks. "I can't pretend anymore. It's you. It's always been you." In that instant, the canvas walls closed in, and the man I'd raised as my own became the stranger who held the knife to my heart's most guarded secret. I bolted upright on my sleeping bag, the damp chill seeping through the nylon floor like ice water in my veins. The lantern's feeble glow cast shadows that danced across Finn's face, sharp cheekbones, those wide blue eyes inherited from his mother, now wide with a terror I'd never seen. Outside, the storm raged over the Colorado high country, wind howling through the aspens like ghosts fleeing their own regrets. We'd come here to hunt elk, to escape the suffocating sprawl of Austin, to stitch together the frayed edges of a family that had unraveled long before Sarah's cancer took her 3 years back. But in that moment, as Finn dropped to his knees beside me, water pooling from his jacket, I realized this trip wasn't about game trails or fresh air. It was about the truth we'd both buried deeper than any grave. My name is Wyatt Harlan, and for 42 years, I'd built my life on solid ground. A ranch hand's calluses, a widower's quiet endurance, and the fierce, unspoken love for the boy who'd called me dad since he was 12. Finnegan Cole, to be precise, though he'd ditched the last name after Sarah and I married, had been her son from a fleeting college fling, a wide-eyed kid with a mop of chestnut hair and a laugh that could coax sunlight from storm clouds. When she passed, leaving us in that rambling adobe house on the outskirts of Austin, I'd sworn to keep him whole. Raised him through high school football games, late-night drives down Highway 71, and the awkward silences that followed her empty chair at the dinner table. He was 22 now, fresh out of UT with a degree in environmental science that he chased like it might fill the void she left. Lean and quick, with a runner's build honed from trail runs in the hill country, Finn had grown into a man who turned heads without trying. Easy smile, freckles dusting his nose like stars, and a quiet intensity that made folks lean in when he spoke. This hunting trip was my idea, a last-ditch grasp at normalcy before he jetted off to some nonprofit gig in Denver. "Just you and me, kid." I'd said over greasy tacos at Joe's Diner, slapping his back a little too hard. Like the old days, before life got so damn complicated. He'd grinned, that boyish flash of teeth, but his eyes held something shadowed, like he was already miles away. We loaded up my old Ford F-150 with gear, rifles, coolers, the canvas tent that smelled of pine sap and faded memories, and pointed north, chasing the golden aspens of the Rockies. 2 days of dusty roads, campfire stories about Sarah's wild college escapades, and the kind of banter that made you forget the ache in your chest. Or so I'd thought. We'd pitched camp in a meadow off a forgotten Forest Service road near Telluride, the kind of spot where the air bit crisp and the stars felt close enough to touch. Elk bugled in the distance that first evening, their calls echoing off granite walls like lonely hymns. I taught him the basics again, how to glass the ridgelines at dawn, track scat fresh as yesterday's rain, sight in the scope without flinching. He soaked it up, same as always, his hand steady on the Remington 700 I'd bought him for his 18th. "You're a natural, Finn," I told him, clapping his shoulder as we watched the sun dip behind the San Juans. His skin was warm under my palm, and for a split second, something twisted in my gut, unfamiliar, sharp. I pulled away, blaming the altitude. Night 1, we bunked separate, him in a bivvy sack, me in the tent proper. Snores and the crackle of embers lulled me under. But come morning, the sky bruised purple, and by noon, thunderheads boiled up from the south. We hunkered down with coffee black as sin, trading jokes about the weatherman who'd promised clear skies. "Mother Nature's got a sense of humor," Finn said, his voice light, but his fingers drummed the thermos like he was keeping time to a dirge. I nodded, watching him from the corner of my eye, the way his hair curled damp at his temples, the faint stubble shadowing his jaw. He was a man now, no denying it, and that truth sat heavy, like the .30-06 slung across my lap. As the storm broke, sheets of rain lashed the tent, turning the meadow to mud. Finn scrambled in, soaked to the bone, his pack thudding to the floor. "Holy hell, Wyatt, it's a deluge out there." He peeled off his jacket, shirt clinging translucent to his chest, ribs rising and falling with the effort. I averted my eyes, busying myself with the lantern, but the air thickened, charged like the lightning cracking overhead. We shared a pot of chili from the camp stove, steam rising in the lamplight, and talked about everything and nothing. His mom's old recipes, the coyotes that howled back home, the girl he dated senior year who ghosted him after prom. Love's a crapshoot, huh? He said, stirring his bowl, gaze fixed on the flames flickering outside the mesh window. Yeah, I replied, voice rougher than I meant. Hits you when you least expect. My mind wandered to Sarah, her laughter filling the kitchen, the way she'd pull me close after Finn's bedtime stories. And then, unbidden, to the nights alone since, the bottle of bourbon under the sink, the dreams that left me waking sweat-soaked and ashamed. I'd never told a soul about those. The confusion that crept in after she was gone, the way my eyes lingered too long on certain men at the feed store, broad backs bent over hay bales. Buried it deep, like the old Wyatt would. Work harder, drink less, raise the boy right. But here, in this nylon cocoon miles from anywhere, the walls felt thinner. Finn set his bowl aside, stretching out on his bag, arms behind his head. The storm's rhythm drummed on, a relentless percussion. Wyatt, he started, then stopped, swallowing hard. You ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like the person everyone sees isn't you. His words hung there, vulnerable as the first raindrop on a leaf. I shifted, the sleeping bag crinkling under me. All the time, son. That's adulthood for you. But he shook his head, eyes locking on mine, pleading, Raw? No. I mean really you. The parts you hide because if they came out, it'd break everything. My throat tightened. I reached for the thermos, pouring coffee that scalded my tongue. Talk to me, Finn. Whatever it is. He sat up then, knees drawn to his chest, the lantern painting gold across his skin. Minutes stretched, broken only by thunder's growl. And then it came, that zipper rasping open in my memory. No, this was now, the flap still dripping from his entry. But in my mind's eye, it replayed. His confession, the world tilting. I think I'm gay, Wyatt. The words tumbled out, soft as snowfall, but they landed like boulders. He buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. Or bi, or whatever the hell. But it's not just that. God, it's you. The way I feel when you're around. Safe, but more. Like fire under my skin. Silence crashed in after, heavier than the rain. My heart hammered, a wild thing caged. This boy, this man, I'd bandaged his scraped knees, cheered his touchdowns, held him when Sarah's machines flatlined. And now this, love, twisted and forbidden, staring back from his eyes. I should have pulled away, quoted scripture from the Baptist pews of my youth, reminded him of bloodlines and boundaries. Instead, I scooted closer, the tent shrinking to the space between us. Finn, I murmured, voice barely above the gale, you don't know what you're saying. But he lifted his head, tears carving tracks down his cheeks. I do. I've known since I was 16. Watching you fix the fence that summer, sweat on your neck, laughing at my dumb jokes. It scared me shitless. Mom. She suspected, I think. That's why she pushed me toward those girls, toward normal. His laugh was bitter, hollow. But it's you, Wyatt. Always has been. The air crackled, not from lightning, but from the spark igniting between us. Dangerous, inevitable. My hand found his shoulder, meant to steady, but it lingered, thumb tracing the ridge of his collarbone. He leaned in, breath mingling with mine, and for a heartbeat, the storm outside faded. Our lips met, tentative, then hungry, years of unspoken longing pouring out like the flood beyond the flaps. His mouth was warm, tasting of chili and salt, hands fisting in my shirt as if I'd vanish. I pulled him close, bodies aligning in the cramped space, the world narrowing to heat and heartbeat. But dawn came cruel, gray light filtering through the mesh. We woke tangled, his head on my chest, my arms slung possessive over his waist. Reality seeped in with the mist, the rifles stacked by the door, the truck keys glinting like accusations. What now? Finn whispered, tracing circles on my skin. I had no answer, only the gnawing fear that I'd just cracked open Pandora's box in the heart of God's country. We broke camp in silence, the rain a steady patter on the hood as I navigated the muddy track back to the highway. Finn stared out the window, jaw set, fiddling with the radio until static gave way to some old Springsteen tune about thunder roads. Wyatt, he said finally, as we crested a pass with views that stole your breath, jagged peaks dusted white, valleys stitched with gold. Last night, it wasn't a mistake. For me, I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles blanching. For me either, kid. But we're walking a wire here. Family, society, all that bullshit. One wrong step. He turned, eyes fierce. Then let's not step wrong. Tell me about you. The real you. The question hung, probing wounds I'd cauterized long ago. I exhaled, the miles blurring. Grew up in Lubbock, dirt poor, dad a roughneck who drank more than he provided. Mom baked pies for church suppers, sang hymns off-key. I was the good son, varsity quarterback, enlisted after September 11th. Came home with shrapnel scars and a purple heart. Met Sarah at a rodeo. She was fire and grace, pulled me from the bottle. But before her, there was a buddy in the sandbox. Javier. Nights in the barracks. Hands wandering when the mortars fell quiet. Never named it, just let it fade with the sand. Buried it when I buried him. IED outside Fallujah. Finn's hand covered mine on the gearshift, steady. You don't have to bury anymore. We drove on, the confession lightening the cab like sun-breaking clouds. By evening, we hit Durango, checked into a roadside motel with neon flickering vacancy like a siren's call. Separate beds, but the door locked behind us, and clothes hit the floor in a rush of need. His body under mine, lithe, unmarked save for a tattoo of aspen leaves on his ribs, inked last summer in secret, was revelation. We moved slow at first, exploring with whispers and touches, then urgent, the headboard thumping against thin walls. Afterward, spent and sated, we lay staring at water stains on the ceiling, his fingers laced in mine. I love you, he breathed, and I echoed it back, the words foreign yet fitting, like a key turning in a long-rusted lock. But paradise has teeth. 2 days later, back in Austin, the hammer fell. My brother, Harlan, big as a barn, mouth like a chainsaw, dropped by unannounced, reeking of cores and suspicion. We'd always clashed. He the elder, the ranch heir who sneered at my soft life after Sarah. Found us in the kitchen, Finn's hand brushing mine over coffee, a casual intimacy that screamed to his watchful eye. What the hell's this? He bellowed, chair scraping back. Finn froze, color draining, but I stood, chest out. Family business, Harl. Doors that way. He laughed, ugly and disbelieving. Family? You're screwing the kid? Sarah's boy? Jesus, Wyatt, you're twisted. The words landed like punches, dredging up Dad's belt whippings for sissy tears, the whispers in boot camp showers. Harlan stormed out, tires spinning gravel, but not before vowing to tell Mom, the church elders, anyone who'd listen. You're done in this town, he spat. That night, Finn paced the porch, phone clutched like a lifeline. We run? Or fight? I pulled him into the rocker, arms around him against the chill. We stand. Together. The backlash hit like a twister. Calls from cousins, texts from old army pals laced with slurs. The feed co-op let me go due to restructuring. But we both knew. Finn's nonprofit offer evaporated. Turns out the director was a golf buddy of Harlan's. We hunkered down, blinds drawn, living on savings and takeout, nights a blur of bodies seeking solace in the dark. But the isolation gnawed, turning love to a fragile thing, cracked by doubt. Am I ruining you? Finn asked one midnight, tears hot on my neck. No, I lied, holding tighter. This is freedom, remember? Yet betrayal lurked closer. A week in, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen since basic. Tommy Reyes, Javier's squadmate, now a cop in San Antonio. Heard you're out and proud, Harlan. With your stepkid, no less. Classy. The venom dripped, but worse was the photo attached, grainy shot from the motel window, us tangled in the sheets. Harlan's doing, no doubt. Rage boiled, but Finn saw the screen, face crumpling. They'll never let us be. He bolted to the bathroom, retching, and I pounded the wall till my knuckles split. We fled then, packing the F-150 under cover of stars, heading west to the only place that felt safe. The cabin Sarah's folks left her in the Cascades, near Leavenworth, Washington. Apple orchards and evergreen spires, a world away from Texas dust. The drive was purgatory, 3 days of diners and motels, radio preaching fire and brimstone, billboards for conversion retreats. Finn slept fitful, murmuring in dreams, and I drove till my eyes burned, replaying every touch, every word, wondering if I'd seduced ruin into his life. The cabin squatted on a hillside, cedar shakes weathered silver, overlooking the Wenatchee River's silver thread. We unloaded in autumn's hush, leaves carpeting the path like confetti from a funeral. Inside, it smelled of mothballs and memories, Sarah's quilt on the bed, her journal stacked on shelves. That first night, fire crackling, we made love on the rug, slow and sacred, reclaiming what the world tried to steal. This is home, Finn said after, tracing my scars. Wherever you are. But dawn brought the letter, slipped under the door like a curse. Harlan, suing for guardianship interference, claiming I'd corrupted her blood. The son she'd borne, now a pawn in his holy war. Climax crashed that week, snow dusting the peaks early. We hiked Icicle Creek, rifles left behind, hunting ghosts, not game. Midway up, Finn stumbled on loose shale, ankle twisting with a sick snap. I carried him down, sweat stinging, his weight a reminder of the boy I'd hoisted on shoulders long ago. At the ER in Wenatchee, the doc splinted it, but the real break was the nurse's whisper to a reporter outside, small-town gossip, amplified by Harlan's whispers. By morning, our faces blurred across local news, scandal in the family. Stepson and stepfather flee to Washington. The deluge followed, protesters at the cabin gate, signs scrawling Sodom's sin, drones buzzing overhead. Finn, crutches clicking, stared them down from the porch. "Let him come," he growled, but his eyes begged mercy. I barricaded the door, phone lines jammed with hate. That night, as sleet lashed the windows, he broke. "I can't, Wyatt. This isn't love, it's a cage." He grabbed his pack, hobbling for the truck. Panic clawed me. "Finn, wait." I lunged, pinning him against the wall, our breaths ragged. "You think running fixes this? We're in it, together. The truth you told me? It's mine too. Don't you dare leave me with half a heart." He sagged, crutches clattering, and we sank to the floor, foreheads pressed. "I'm scared," he admitted, voice small. "Of losing you. Of being the reason you lose everything." I cupped his face, thumbs wiping tears. "You are everything, kid. The rest? Dust." We kissed then, fierce and forgiving, the storm outside mirroring the one within. Harlan's suit crumbled days later, evidence of his own affairs unearthed by a PI Finn hired with his last credit. The news cycle shifted, vultures to fresh meat, leaving us bruised but breathing. Spring thawed the Cascades, green shoots piercing snow like hope. Finn's ankle mended, and with it, our rhythm, mornings chopping wood, his laughter echoing as axes bit true, evenings by the fire, reading Sarah's journals aloud, her words a bridge across the chasm. "She knew," he said one dusk, pages trembling in his lap. "About me. Wanted me free, not hidden." I nodded, arm around him on the glider. She raised us both better than fear. We stayed, turning the cabin into haven, solar panels for off-grid life, a garden scratching earth for sustenance. Word spread slow in the valley, folks at the co-op eyeing us wary at first, then nodding over coffee, sharing pies unbidden. An old logger, grizzled as I, clapped my back one market day. "Heard your story, Harlan. Takes guts. My boy's queer too." We lost him to silence. "Don't make our mistake." His gruff absolution cracked something in me, tears pricking unashamed. Finn found work with a conservation crew, mapping trails, his passion blooming unchecked. I took contracts fixing rigs in Leavenworth, hands busy, heart full. Nights, we danced to scratchy records, Johnny Cash crooning of Ring of Fire, his head on my shoulder, body swaying like willows in wind. Betrayal's shadow lingered, in Harlan's silence, a Christmas card, and signed, with a single elk stamp, in the scar of that motel photo. But it forged us stronger, compassion the anvil, identity the blade. One August eve, fireflies winking over the river, Finn knelt in the meadow we'd claimed as ours. No ring, just a braided leather cord from his wrist, slipped onto my finger. "Marry me, Wyatt." Not legal, not yet, but ours. Laughter bubbled, joy sharp as summer air. "Hell yes." I rasped, pulling him up, spinning till we fell laughing in grass. The stars wheeled above, vast and forgiving, whispering of freedom's hard won. In the end, it's not the hunt that defines us, but the truths we track through the dark. Finn taught me that love's no straight path, but a winding trail, rich with betrayals, thorns, and romance's wild bloom. We walk it hand in hand, stepfathers and sons no more, but men unbound, hearts scarred yet whole. And in America's vast heart, from Texas dust to Cascade green, that's grace enough.